Smile. It's gonna go on Instagram. Perfect. And I'll link in our story. I'll link the live.
So let me know when you all start.
Okay, sit up first for a moment so we can fix the lighting. Okay, so it's a little dark. There we go.
Oh, did you just want
You
to?
live already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. And then we just need to verify that the right mic is, you want the USB mic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, actually, you want to test levels?
Sure. Hello. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Probably.
Oh, no, I didn't. I see sign up.
All right, y'all. We're gonna get started in just a minute. Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, this is it.
Let me look here.
What do you want to title of the app?
Starting as an entrepreneur, how to get started as an entrepreneur and build a bulletproof brand.
And what
Or you could just do how to build a bulletproof brand as an entrepreneur.
What was your Instagram name?
At the Ashley Nicole Show and at Mobile General Counsel.
And the other one was one more time, sorry.
Mobile General Counsel.
With Ashley Williams or Ashley Nicole?
At the Ashley Nicole Show. My name's Ashley Kirkwood.
You want Ashley Kirkwood or you want Ashley Nicole?
Yeah, Ashley Kirkwood.
Okay. So you are live, not yet. Very good.
All right. Hey guys, this is Ashley Nicole Kirkwood. I'm the founder of Mobile General Counsel, and I'm super excited to talk to you guys today about building a bulletproof brand. So for those of you who have never seen me before, I am the founder and founding attorney of Mobile General Counsel, which is a law firm for entrepreneurs. And I'm here to talk to you all about building your own empires as entrepreneurs and how to do it in a way that will protect your business. So I think it's important first for you to know kind of a little bit about where I'm coming from, why I'm doing this work. I'm going to tell you my entrepreneurship story. So I, like many of you, started off in a really traditional career. I went to the University of Illinois undergrad. So if there's any Big Ten folks, let me know in the comments. And then I went on, I stayed Big Ten and went to Northwestern Law School, graduated, worked at a large law firm, was doing pretty good, making good money, but then decided to leave it all and start my own firm. When I left, I was around $280,000 at my job. So taking the leap into entrepreneurship was a big leap. And when I did it, I had to do it in a way that would help me to set myself up for success. So my firm, Mobile General Counsel, actually focuses on building up those brands, making them bulletproof with legal, and making sure that we have sustainable businesses. You need to pause it? Okay.
Sorry, Ashley.
No worries.
So we gotta click the, yeah.
Sorry, followers, viewers, we got new camera equipment and we went live from the wrong page. So we are gonna have to start over.
Okay, no worries. No worries.
I know, it's like a train wreck today. We're so sorry. How to build.
Hey, Jermaine.
So sorry.
No worries.
He's like, wrong page. How to build a bulletproof brand. I was wondering, I was looking at the viewers, I'm like, there's only one person on there. How to build a bulletproof brand. That's the correct one. Okay. This is, yes. Yes. All right, Ashley, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
We'll be live. There you go.
All right. Hello, Black Doctor community. My name is Ashley Kirkwood. I'm the principal attorney and founder of Mobile General Counsel, the law firm for entrepreneurs, influencers, and startup companies. And we help our clients build bulletproof brands with trademarks, contracts, and business advice. So I want to start off by telling you all my entrepreneurship story because I am positive that there are a lot of you out there that are thinking about entrepreneurship but haven't quite launched yet. And then I'm sure we have some side hustlers and people who are working their full-time jobs. So right off the bat, just let me know in the comments if you are a full-time entrepreneur or part-time entrepreneur so I can kind of see who we're talking to here and get a feel for the community. So just drop full-time FT if you're full-time, part-time PT if you're part-time. And if you're neither, then that's cool too. You'll still get something out of this presentation. So my entrepreneurship story, I went to the University of Illinois, so I'm an Illini. Then went on to Northwestern Law School. So I stayed in the Big Ten circle, stayed in Illinois, graduated from Northwestern Law, top of my class, started at a really large law firm, Kirkland & Ellis. And we were at about, things were going okay, right? I was the only Black woman there. I wanted to do more for my community, but I also was like comfortable with the paycheck, if you know what I mean. So I stayed at Kirkland for about 3 years. I think I did a year part-time, 2 years full-time, then went on to another large law firm because they offered me a pay raise. So at the time that I left my full-time career to be an entrepreneur, I was at around $280,000, and that was not including my end-of-the-year bonus, okay? So, you know, it took some strategy, okay, to leave. But I walked off that, left, and became a full-time entrepreneur. On day one, I did a book tour for my book, The Law School Hustle, and a speaking tour, which was good. But I did actually move into having my own law firm really quickly after leaving my old firm. And this firm now focuses on entrepreneurship. I say that to say there are probably some of you who are like, okay, how do I even strategize to leave my corporate job and become a full-time entrepreneur? So tip number one that I'm going to say has nothing to do with legal, and we're going to get into legalizing your business. But tip number one is figure out how on day one you can bring income into your home. If you're going to do this leap, like if you're going to just leap all the way out there, like I did, figure out how to bring in income on day one. So, you know, and feel free throughout to drop your questions. I totally don't mind answering any questions that you have about legalizing your business or just the jump to full-time entrepreneurship or how it's been thus far. But the first thing I would say in terms of building a bulletproof brand is that you have to have a name for your business. Okay, and this seems pretty self-explanatory, but what a lot of people miss is that the naming of your business is almost one of the most important parts of it, because you want to have a name that kind of describes also what you do. So you'd like for your name of your business to be counterintuitive to your customers. You want them to know what you do off bat. And then you want to think about early on, if you name that, if you choose a name for your business, can you own that name? So I'm going to take a pause there because a lot of people don't understand that you can actually do business under a particular name in your state and never be able to own the rights to that name at the federal level. And what do I mean by that? Now we're talking about trademarking. So when I chose the name for my law firm, before I even chose the business structure or anything else, once I decided on a name that I was committed to, I myself actually called another trademark attorney and was like, okay, I need you to work on trademarking this name. I outsourced that, even though I could have done it myself. And I did that because it's important to know where I should spend my energy as an entrepreneur because I have limited time. And I wanted to focus all my time on getting clients, building my brands. I was going to let other people do the things that I didn't need to do that weren't going to bring in money immediately to my business. So I got the trademark before I even determined whether it was going to be an LLC or an incorporation or anything. I got the trademark because I wanted to know right off the bat whether I could actually do business under that name and whether I could own the rights to doing business under that name as a law firm. Because if not, I've seen people day in and day out that start businesses under a particular name, never think about legalizing it, never think about trademarking the name. And then they call me a couple years later and say they've gotten a cease and desist letter telling them to stop operating under a particular business name because someone else owns it. And now you're probably wondering, how can that happen if the state lets me get an LLC? Let's back up. A trademark is actually the thing that separates your brand from everyone else's brand. And if this is still a little confusing to you, think about a vacuum cleaner, because there's all these words out there that we've heard, or that some of you may have heard, like trademarks, copyrights, patents, and it all gets very confusing. It's like the soup of legal words. Okay, so let's think of a vacuum cleaner. Okay, let's say that the name of the company that sells a particular vacuum cleaner is Dykema. On the front of the vacuum cleaner, typically you see the brand name. That name, Dykema, could be trademarked. The manual that comes with that vacuum cleaner, the actual instructions, the written instructions could be copywritten. You could file for copyright protection over those. And the actual invention of a vacuum cleaner could be patented. So whoever invented that would have gotten the patent for it. So if you're a service-based business, you sell services, then the name of your business, you could actually have it trademarked, okay? That would be what you're looking to do. If you want to make sure that no one else uses that particular business name or a name like it for the purposes that you use it for, then you're going to be seeking a trademark, a federal trademark, which will stop people from using it across the United States. So are there any questions right now about trademark, copyrights? I know that's kind of a lot just in that instance. Yes.
Yes, when you trademark in the US, does that mean you're trademarked globally? Or
That's
only in the country?
That's a really good question. It does not mean you're trademarked globally. What it does, though, is it forms the basis for your international trademark. And there's a conglomerate of countries that have come together and said, okay, you could file this particular application and receive trademark status in our country. So there's a way to do that. If you're a domestic business, the first step would be to get your brand trademarked. And that's something that I do. That's what I do the most of right now. I guess it's about 60-40. 60% of my practice is trademarking, 40% is drafting contracts. So those are the two big things that I do now in my business. But that's a great question. So if y'all have any other questions about trademarking, please let me know. But the other thing to remember, and I'm gonna give this example. Everyone's heard of Beyonce, right? I hope so. Okay, Beyonce is a big deal. So there's this girl named Beyonce. She's a singer. She's global, right? A lot of people are Beyonce fans. One of her fans created a clothing line, and one of the T-shirts said Beyonce. And they spelled it F-E-Y-O-N-C-E with the accent over the E. Now, Beyonce's camp wasn't having that. They actually stopped them from using that particular shirt, or they sent out a cease and desist letter for that regard. And it became a big thing. It actually made it in the news. So you want to consider whether what you're doing is potentially trademark infringement. A lot of people come to me saying, hey, Ashley, I really want to protect my brand. I want to have I want to make sure that my brand is protected, and I want to have a trademark over this, a trademark over that. You can't trademark a celebrity's name or a celebrity's likeness or a celebrity's image or a celebrity's sayings. So, Little John had, I think it was like, okay, he had a particular way he said that. You can't trademark that. You can't come up with a shirt, put that on it and say I'm going to sell it. Now you can, but you run the risk of being sued for it, which is what a lot of people do. And I'll be honest, a lot of what I do as a lawyer is help clients assess risks, because most businesses have a number one goal, which is making money. The number two goal is probably doing it ethically, just being honest. Most companies are okay, I need to make this money. I need to stay out of trouble doing it. But my number one goal is making money. And because of that, a lot of what lawyers do is assess risks. Is it an ethical violation? Will this get you in jail? Will this just get you a civil lawsuit? Is this borderline criminal? So that's why I recommend when you're first starting your business, speak to two people, an accountant and a lawyer. And I would say accountant first, because the IRS will put you in jail. And then speak to a lawyer. I mean, unless you're doing illegal, if you're selling illegal stuff, then you're on your way to jail anyways. But if you're just a regular business owner, you're doing a for-profit business, you want to make sure you are speaking to a lawyer, speaking to an accountant, getting your ducks in the row in that regard, because that's vital to having a successful business. So talk to your accountant first, then hit up a lawyer and let them know what you're trying to do. And they can assess for you what the legal risks are. You don't have to think of everything you're going to talk to them about. A great lawyer will just ask you questions to actually assess those risks. So the number one thing, you want to come up with a name. And when you come up with that name, you want to make sure that you can actually own the name. So how do you do that? If you're sitting at home and you're thinking, okay, I want to come up with a business name that works, or I want to make sure my business name as it stands does not infringe on anyone else's, then you should go to uspto.gov and run what's called a test search, TESS search. And there's a search on there. In the search bar, you could just say search for trademark names, and they'll pull up a database of names that you can actually search for to see whether someone else already has it trademarked. The other place you want to go is Google. Run a Google search on your name. And don't just stop at the first page. Now go back 5, 10, 15 pages and make sure no one's actually using that name for what you're trying to use it for. And then you also want to do an Instagram search. Go on social media channels, search Instagram, search Facebook, see what else is out there. Because just because someone doesn't have a website or they don't own the GoDaddy account and you want to search GoDaddy and they don't have a trademark doesn't mean they don't already have rights to the name that you can infringe upon. The bad thing is, if you don't own the name, if you don't have the rights to that name, you can't really, it's going to be very difficult for you to collect damages if someone infringes on you. So if you think you're going to get by with just common law trademark rights because that's what you want to do and you want to save some money, then that's not going to work. The other thing is, we build these businesses, but we don't always build them to last. So the reason the title of this is building a bulletproof brand, it's because if you want to build a brand, a nationally recognized brand, something that people respect, something that people will be going to, something you can hand down to your friends and family, you spending $2,000 to pay a lawyer to trademark your brand name or spending a couple $100s to take my Get the T on Trademarks class isn't going to break the bank, and it's worth it. It's worth the investment. And I'm practicing what I preach because I've talked to an accountant for my business, several. I hired a lawyer for my business as well. And be honest, you know what you will and won't do. You know that you're not going to learn all the legalities of running a business. So speak to someone who's already gone to law school. One of the things that I tell people who are in my office hours program is it's either time or money. You're either going to spend the time to learn all the information or you're going to spend the money to pay someone that has. And legal and accounting are two of those things where you do not want to skip. Pay them for their expertise, definitely. So after you have your brand name, the other thing, when choosing a name, if you're at the beginning of it or you're going to change your brand name, try to think of a name that's unique to your business and unique to you. But ideally, something you've made up, a phrase that you've made up or a phrase that you've repurposed, they're going to be the best names. Like think of Sprint. Sprint is a real word. It means running, right? But they use it for cell phones. Perfect. Because there's no correlation between actually sprinting and using a cell phone. So they basically repurposed a word that exists for an entire industry and branded the heck out of it. Orange Cellular, the same thing. Orange is a fruit, it has nothing to do with cellular. So think of names that you can either repurpose for your industry or a name that you completely make up. People use the first two letters of their children's names and then tack on consulting at the end if they're consulting. Or tack on firm or foods if they're selling foods or jewelry. So those are some great ways to think of names that are unique enough that you can actually garner trademark protection for them. But they're also interesting enough that they'll actually work for you to build your brand. Yes.
The cost of trademark, is that the same throughout the country or is it different per state?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the federal trademark application costs are set by the federal government. The actual government fees are going to be set by them. The actual process of trademarking, different trademarking lawyers will have different prices that they charge to do the process for you. And it's a 6+ month process. And I'll tell you, my trademarking fee right now is a flat fee of $2,000, which includes the government fees. And it includes me communicating with them on your behalf, whether it takes 6 months, a year, or a year and 3 months. So it's a flat fee. However, and that includes one class of goods. The other way that I work with people, because who can guess in the comments the number one reason people don't get their brand trademarked? It'll probably take 5 seconds. The number one reason is probably cost. The number two reason is they just don't know. There are some people that have the money. They're like, I don't care about $2,000, whatever, but I just didn't even know that this was important. If you know it's important and you don't do it, the reason you don't do it is cost. So I came up with a class called Get the T on Trademarks, where I teach people how to file their own federally registered trademark applications. And that class is just $199. And it's taking place next week, Tuesday, but I do it monthly. And you can find information about that at bit.ly/TONTM, all lowercase. And we'll post the links after this as well. But the cost is the number one reason people don't do it. So I try to come out with different ways to combat that because it is important. It's really, really important. And I'll give you an example of how important it is. There was a woman selling T-shirts with the Disney logo on it. And we've all heard of Walt Disney. And the federal government actually came in and took all her product off her shelves because she was sent cease and desist letters. She didn't comply. And she thought it was a game. And Disney didn't think it was a game. Just like Beyonce didn't think it was a game. And guess what? All your faves who you're trying to quote make money off of, none of them think it's a game. They pay big money to get their names trademarked. Cardi B owns trademarks. People can say what they want about her, but she has her stuff in order because she has a lawyer. And at the end of the day, even if you don't know something, it's up to you to know enough to know you don't know it. Like, that's still your responsibility. Even in, I can't think of, there was a really popular blog that was using celebrity photos and images, and Instagram took their account down. Why can't I think of this girl's name? I don't think it was I'm pretty sure it wasn't the Shade Room, but it was another really popular fashion blog. And they had like hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of followers and had to rebuild because their account was taken down. And what you don't consider is that actually deals with copyright infringement. But if you come to a lawyer and say, hey, I'm going to start a blog, a good attorney will tell you, okay, great. These are the legal things that you need to consider in starting this blog. These are sites where you could probably get your websites from or your pictures from. You want to save all that information. You want to make sure all your intellectual property is in order. Because otherwise, you could lose all of that hard work. And how much does that suck? Like, that you've done all this work, built hundreds of thousands of followers, started from zero, built your way up, and now your business is essentially on hold because of infringement issues. Yes.
Do trademarks expire?
That's a great question. So trademarks are one of those things that don't ever have to expire. So if you keep up with your paperwork, they don't have to expire. So after you file initially, you're good for 5 years. And then you'll have to do some paperwork to keep it good. After that, you do some more paperwork at year 10 and again at year 20. But it's a great asset because you actually have the right to keep it forever as long as you keep up on that paperwork. So it's really great that you could invest $2,000 now for your business to own a brand for the next 2, 3, 4 decades, which is important if you're going to keep your business going, if you don't want it to last. So of those of you that actually have businesses, let me know if you want your business to last forever or if you want to sell it. So if you want to keep it in your family and sell it for generations, just put generations in the comments. Or if you want to sell, then just put sell in the comments because that's important too. And it brings us to our next point. Once you own something, think of a house. If you own a house, what can you do with it? You can sell it, you can rent it, you can have people in it just for a day, you could do events in it, you can do whatever you want. So if you're thinking about your brand and you want to be strategic about how you spend your money in business, your trademark is actually an asset that you can do the exact same things with. You can rent it. You can give people a limited license to use it. You can sell it. You can sell the name of your business after you've built it. You can also license it, meaning, let's say I start a women's group in Chicago called, I have an event tonight for Christian entrepreneurs in Chicago. It's called the Faith and Fruit Meetup. So let's say I want to do a Faith and Fruit chapter in Chicago and I want to do a Faith and Fruit chapter in Atlanta, and I give the person in Atlanta a license to use it. They pay me $25 a month. I do promotion on Instagram. They can use the name, etc. I could do that because I would actually own the trademark rights to that particular brand. And I have people who do things like that with their brands. And you want to do that. You want to do that because any asset should work for itself and make money for you after time. So you don't just build these brands because they look pretty and protect yourself with legal because it feels good and you have to pay some lawyer all this money you don't want to pay. It's because you have then the rights to move forward. And studies show there's actual evidence on this. And if anyone's a teacher, you may attest to this. People who do stuff right actually end up going further and being more confident to go for bigger deals. So my clients that work with me, typically, they have a plan to scale their business at a faster rate than businesses who don't hire members of their team. Yes.
Do you advise utilizing Fiverr?
Well, okay, so one, that's a broad statement. So I've used Fiverr for some things, but typically I provide the images to Fiverr for them to use, if that makes sense. So if you're trusting them to kind of do that type of stuff and you let them choose your images, you don't know where they come from, I would be wary of that. And also they're international, so it's really difficult for you to get them to sign off on any real enforceable agreement. For instance, you give them your logo, your vector files, and you make them sign some contract saying that they won't disclose it. But they're in India. Are you going to sue someone in India? Like, I'm not. I mean, I don't want anyone in India to be like, oh, well, then I can do anything. I will, trust and believe, I will, but I don't plan to. So I actually hired a virtual assistant who's based in Chicago who actually had graphic design experience. Most virtual assistants, even domestically, aren't that much. They have really good rates. But if you're going to use a graphic designer, you're going to be way safer using someone in the US who you can have sign an agreement, who you can track down and trace. But, Fiverr is it's like another way you save money. So if you do, just know there's a little bit of risks there, and you don't want them using your images for their own personal reasons or for other clients' files, which is weird to think about. But once they have your image, those are things that I consider as a lawyer anyways. It's like, what else do we use these images for? I don't want to be on anyone's stock photo website without my knowledge. So you can use it, but there are risks there, and it's hard to control what people do internationally because all the laws are different. So was there any other questions right now? Okay, awesome. So one of the things that I will say is that all of this stuff can feel very, very, very overwhelming in the beginning. So I will say this: if you're thinking of starting a business, the best thing you can do is actually start, and not let anything stop you from starting. Even though I'm saying, get your legal life in order, do all that stuff, build a bulletproof brand. I can't work with like zero, right? You need an alpha before you can get a beta. So typically when people hear me speak, they're like, oh my God, I have so much to do. I'm so overwhelmed by the process. But you want to actually start, get started, and then hire someone as soon as you can. At least do a consultation and get your initial questions answered and get your business evaluated and develop a legal business strategy so that you're at least starting the process. That becomes very, very, very important. Now, after you choose your name and you get your trademarks done, you want to also then be sure to look at the contracts you're going to use on your website. What most people do is they choose their name, then they start their websites. There are laws that govern what you need to have on your website: privacy policies, terms and conditions. If you're going to do business internationally, meaning your site is accessible to people in Europe, you have to comply with European privacy laws, which are extremely detailed and strict and deliberate about how they protect their consumers. So those are the other things that we do, is draft ironclad terms and conditions for clients and make sure that they are able to actually have that brand forever. So you want to make sure that that's something that you're thinking about as well, getting your contracts in order so that you don't end up starting a business and then you get your website shut down because you're not complying with privacy laws. And if you collect sensitive information and data through your business, that's something else to consider. That's an entirely different thing to consider. It's like, how will you actually protect your customers' information? What do you do with that information, and what information are you actually collecting? So think about getting those contracts in order, because that goes directly with your website. And most people start a website either concurrently or right after choosing their business name. And then the number 3 question that I get asked a lot about is like, what should I be? Incorporated, an LLC, a sole proprietorship? And I think that comes down to the tax implications, which is why I recommend speaking with an accountant. It also comes down to knowing yourself. Are you the type of person who's going to keep up with paperwork? Are you the type of person who's going to be deliberate? If you have a corporation, you need to put yourself on payroll. So are you going to be deliberate about giving yourself a paycheck, taking out the taxes that are required, not just dipping in to pay your rent from your corporate account? Because all of that just means that you will not have the protection that you want to have by having a corporation. And you should have a separate account for your business as well as for your personal account. I use Citibank and US Bank. I found that US Bank was a little bit cheaper for my business. So if anyone has US Bank near them, shout out to them. They're pretty reasonable to get started and have very low, if any, minimum fees for business accounts, at least as of today's date. That may change. But I like US Bank. And then there are some online bank providers that have even better rates and fees and provisions for business owners. So I would look into those as well. But definitely get you a separate bank account. So when considering that, the sole proprietorship means you have no protection between your business and personal assets. It's all lumped in one, meaning if you get sued, they can take your house, your car, everything. An LLC means you have some protection, but not all. Typically in the state of Illinois, they can just get up to what you've put in. And if you are a corporation, you have total protection as long as you follow the rules and guidelines of keeping your business and personal assets separate. You have the most protection with a corporation. But it's also expensive. There's flat fee, tax provisions to consider. And, running a corporation is going to involve the most amount of work on your part as well. So please do consider those things after you've gotten started. But as a starting point, and for businesses in existence, every business that's in existence now, because some of you are already current entrepreneurs, you should have your trademark. You should have a separate business account. If you were to create a checklist, okay, 1, you should have your trademark. You should own your business name. You don't want anyone else to own that. 2, you should have contracts. 3, you should have spoken with at least an accountant and a lawyer. And 4, you definitely want to have separate bank accounts from your business and your personal assets. So those things become very, very, very integral, okay? So I hope you all are take note of those 4 things. So I have been giving you all some tips on getting started. I don't want to overwhelm you with information. If this was valuable and helpful to you, here's what you can do to connect with me. You can just text my first name, Ashley, Ashley, to 66866. So if this was valuable to you, you want to get free legal tips to your inbox, you want to stay connected with me, you can just text my name, Ashley, Ashley, to 66866. Okay, so that's really easy. So do that. And for those of you that are watching on the Black Doctor page, you can actually go and take my class and use code Black Doctor to get $20 off of the course. Okay, so that code will just be Black Doctor.
What's the number again?
To remember. To text the number, it would be text Ashley, Ashley, to 66866. So 66866, 66866. Text Ashley to 66866. My next Get the T on Trademarks class, which is awesome. We've had amazing reviews. If you go on the website, bit.ly/TONTM, you'll actually see some of the great reviews. We've had people who during the class have actually filed their trademark applications. Then you can just go and register for that class, use code Black Doctor for $20 off, and learn how to file your own federally registered trademark. It's, of course, the best thing to do is hire a lawyer, but if you can't take the class, I show up live. So if you have questions during the process, then take it. We talk about the terminology and what happens during and even after, what you can look forward to. I give people an ebook that they can use. So those are some interesting things. So do you all have any questions about working with a lawyer, working with me specifically, any of that? Because if not, you can text that number and we can stay connected. All righty. Well, thank you all so much for joining, and I'll probably see you soon. And be sure to follow the Black Doctor page, and be sure to follow me as well. I'll post all of my links. And again, text Ashley to 66866. Thank you so much for joining. Awesome. Thank you guys, my Facebook family, for joining.
Thank you for bearing with our girly things.
No worries.